Hey guys, today we're going to talk about pro coaching tip number 5, and it is about forgiveness. Now, this is going to be a big one because it is really tough sometimes to forgive. A lot of us suffer from holding on and ruminating. It's a very constant thing, especially because of the fact that we are pretty imperfect. So there's a lot of times where we do mess each other up. So one of the first things I want to address is that forgiveness is not the same thing as forgetting. There's this sense that if you forgive, then you have to now make yourself be gullible or put yourself in a situation where you're now able to be taken advantage of, that sort of thing. Forgiveness isn't the same thing as being foolish. Forgiveness is a very personal act. In fact, forgiveness has to do with you allowing yourself to let go of an anger or resentment or grudge, that sort of thing. Most of us have heard by now that holding on to grudges, holding on to anger, holding on to resentment, those things affect you physically. You can end up with depression, anxiety, heart disease. There are plenty of things that are attributed or at least aided by having these bad feelings, these bad emotions, and carrying them with you. Now, one of the things that make this really tough as far as forgiveness is the fact that some people are doing bad things. In most cases, I would imagine most people never set out and say, I want to go harm that person, or I want to go be mean to that person, or I want to negatively affect or hurt that person. That's probably pretty rare. People are probably using some other level of reasoning when they do this thing that hurts us. So the first thing I want to suggest, assume the best. Assume that people are pretty screwed up. And because they are, assume that their level of insecurity, their level of fear, their level of doubt, their level of everything that we all have in us, these insecurities, these bad thoughts, their level of it, it's probably worse than yours if you're not doing the same thing to them. That being said, you can let them off the hook by understanding or empathizing when you get where they're coming from. In a simple conversation or even just reflecting on what these people have done, you'll probably realize in most cases it wasn't a natural escalation. It wasn't a natural thing. It wasn't something that's typically premeditated based on them just trying to be harmful. That being said, you can always consider the idea of empathy when you realize, oh, this person is pretty jacked up. It really helps you to have a measure of forgiveness. Again, not putting yourself back into a situation where you're going to be hurt by them, but definitely realizing that they do have some issues that led them to this course. The other thing, though, is that there are times and places where it is intentional. People did set out to hurt your feelings or make you feel bad. In those cases, a very important idea to keep in mind is the idea that anytime someone does something to you, you only have power over how you respond, how you choose to respond. And with any amount of choice comes a measure of power, because this is you. This is the thing that's essential for you. This is the thing that's unique to you. They can be the most hateful, rude, irritating, bad person, but what you decide to do is what gives you power. So if you decide in response to their bad act, their intentional, mean-hearted bad act, if you decide, what I want to do is I'm going to lead with love. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate, give you space, and not be around you, not put myself in harm's way, but I refuse to hold on to bad feelings about you. I refuse to ruminate on the bad feelings, the bad things, because essentially what you're doing, you're giving that person power. And if you can imagine how bad someone is like this, do you really want to give them power in your world? Especially considering the fact that they typically won't know or won't care about how you feel during that time. So that's the next piece. The last step that it really counts to consider when we're talking about forgiveness is this idea that forgiveness is somehow related to how someone else feels, or when they apologize, or them being different or better. Very rarely will you find a situation where someone who intentionally, especially, did something wrong to you, and they come back and sincerely have grown and apologized. Think about it for yourself. How many times have you done something wrong, knowingly or unknowingly, and then somehow figured out that, oh man, this was wrong, gone back and apologized? I've done it. I know a lot with my parents. I've had to go back and say, geez, Dad, I am so sorry. That was really dumb. The reality, though, is that by that time, all the hurt, all the pain, everything that was there, that's all done. And that is a part of them. So if it's a case where you don't get an apology, that shouldn't hinder you from forgiving. Your forgiveness needs to be based on your desire to get rid of the bad emotions. Bad emotions, you can imagine, are like cancers. They're like a virus. What they do is that they go into you and they start to mess up everything else that's happening in your mind. So the key here is that you want to make sure that you keep in mind that your forgiveness is personal, right? You'll find that if you're a Bible reader, there are a few passages actually that talk about this idea of forgiving so you can be forgiven. And one of the things that you'll find is that in order to forgive other people, you do rely a lot on empathy. And what you'll realize when you're empathetic with other people or toward other people and their situations, you'll realize that a lot of times you'll find a measure of you in those same situations, or a measure of those same situations in your own life. And what'll happen is that you'll be able to really respond from a place of understanding versus just responding off the sheer emotion of someone wronging you. In that sense, you'll realize that these bad flaws that people have, you also have them. And when you can forgive other people, you'll realize you're also forgiving yourself for those flaws, which means it is twofold, and it is much, much more powerful than just holding on and, again, ruminating. This takes practice. This isn't a thing that a lot of us are taught or used to or are definitely practicing. So it takes practice, and I'm often asked about how to get this done. So if you want some help on how to get this done or how to put this into practice on your everyday life or in specific situations, you can reach me at my website. It is bethinklive.com. It's www.bethinklive.com. You guys have a great one.